afternoon, everyone. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to come to these webinars. We know it's a difficult thing to carve out this time from your busy day, and hopefully we'll give you enough information that makes it worth your while. And we'll talk a little bit about the end, how you can give us the kind of feedback that makes sure that we're doing that. Today we're going to look about basically the productivity piece for employees. And a lot of this will focus on mobile, but there's a lot of other pieces we have. The goal here is to kind of understand unified communications. Everyone's coming at you with new solutions, new opportunities, just as we are, but kind of to take a step back and look at what that all means is sort of the goal for this presentation. Just briefly, AVST has been in the business a long time, and we're a worldwide supplier for very, very highly rated unified communication solutions. And one of the things that makes us a little unique is we started in this industry with open standards and platforms, which means we've been able to grow our product for close to 30 years without having to make a platform change, and it makes ours by far the most robust product in terms of feature sets. We're not going to talk about all the solutions on the product because we don't have enough time, but you'll see a little bit here kind of hinting at the breadth of the solutions we offer. Product's been out in the market for years. There's about 15 million users, and we've been here in the Seattle area the whole time, which means we actually have software developers and employees here who have been with the product that entire time, which is pretty impressive in today's software market. You know, people tend to move around a lot, but our people, they've been happy here, and I think it shows in our product. So if you look at unified communications, there's a lot of sources for you to go out and get information on. They all kind of say the same thing. They talk about pick a best-of-breed UC solutions, and that's something we believe in. They talk about all the interoperability required. I mean, unified communications by definition is letting you create new functionalities by leveraging connections between more than one type of application. Sometimes your existing applications, sometimes a new application goes in, and you want to leverage it with what you have in your enterprise. And the real goal here, I think, is for you to be able to do this as it's required for you. Nobody really wants to rip out their entire infrastructure and put everything in brand new to have unified communications. And I doubt the value's there to do that. But definitely as you look at doing this, you want to look at picking solutions that are going to go forward with you. And we're going to talk a little bit about a way to approach that. We provide a lot of different delivery models for UC because there's a lot of usage models out there. There's people that are a single premise, and they're interested in unified communications. There's people at multiple site locations that have tied their locations together with some sort of centralization typically on their data cloud first. And we call that private cloud, where you basically can do a cloud version of computing even though you maintain the equipment yourself. You can support all your users out in your various organizations. There's a hybrid, which is the most popular, which is tying some of your locations together and leaving some separate. And then there's the public cloud, and we actually play in all those markets with a mixture of products. We're only going to look at one product today, and the product we're talking about is CX. And CXE, the enterprise version of this product, is the one that's been on the market for the 30 years. And this is just a list of some of the people that have taken advantage of what we offer. Some of these people have had the product for 30 years. Some are fairly new customers. And as you can see, they span a very wide range of customer types. We don't really focus specifically in any area, but what we found is we do very well in certain areas based on sort of what those people have deployed and what their needs are. The general enterprise market, we have a lot of recognizable names. We've always done very, very well there. Higher ed has been one of our strongest points in the last few years. The higher ed people feel the budget constraints pretty strongly, and doing more with less has become a mantra for them, and we're able to help them in a lot of cases. And there's a lot of people here that have really taken advantage of the UC concept for our product. Healthcare is the same story. I think we have 400 hospitals was the number I heard last time. So it's a market we're very familiar with. Not just voicemail. Some of these people actually don't even have voicemail. They just have some of the UC components or the business process pieces. And then federal, state, and local government, once again, another group where, budgets being what they are really trying to milk everything they can from technology, and they find us a very helpful partner in that. And a lot of these people are referenceable as you get a little further down in your decision process. You can arrange by talking to your dealers to talk to some of these people, particularly if you find one that's in a similar industry, even better, a similar location. You can get some pretty good information on how they approached it. If you look at why people come to us, I mean, we're not the most well-known household name out there. Everyone we compete with is pretty much known more than we are, and that's because we have focused on this one area. We don't make data switches. We don't make PBXs. We don't make anything that sits on your desk with our name on it. We do unified communications on the back end, connecting to your existing infrastructure to deliver extra performance and connectivity. And we do extremely well in a lot of areas. Mixed PBXs, because we're not owned by a PBX vendor, we do a really good job at working in every environment. We have a lot of speech-driven applications, which are extremely good for mobile users. And we do a great job at replacing legacy voicemail. All of these different environments listed here are areas where we have put into our product the pieces needed to smoothly transition somebody into unified communications, perhaps just one application at a time. So you looked at our reference list, you look at this list, you get a pretty good idea of the breadth of where we can go into a market and what we can do for customers. We have 3 product focuses. We have the CXE, our main thrust product right now we're going to talk about today, which is our enterprise version of CX. We have a smaller version of the CX product called CXS. CXS has all the features we're going to talk about today, but they've been repackaged for a small to medium single-site enterprise. So anything we're talking about today in terms of functionality holds true for the CXS. And on the larger side, we have the CXC, which is a different product, and this is a product purpose-built for hosting for large solution providers, for software in the cloud kind of applications. Happy to talk to people about that as well, but today's presentation will focus on the CXE and the CXS by default as well. So if you look at this platform, we sort of talk about our business in 4 pillars. The bottom pillar, UC interoperability, is sort of the key for us in terms of entry into unified communications. That's the part of our product we spent so much time engineering such that it will fit into your enterprise and connect with your other solutions, typically using industry standard connectivity. On top of that, we've built 3 application pillar groups. The UC Mobile is one of the most popular right now because of the drive towards mobility and all the action going on in every enterprise out there. And we're going to talk a little bit about the mobile clients and some of the things we do there. The UC Voice practice is basically our core voicemail, automated attendant call processing piece. This is the part of our business that really specializes in replacing legacy voicemails. Now, hopefully, when we do that, we bring these other 2 pillars in and give a customer even more functionality than just replacement. But we are happy to talk about a replacement because it's a key part of what we do. And then the last pillar, the UC business process, is our custom application practice, where we're going to talk about a lot of things we do in UC, but you're definitely going to find in your enterprise things you want to do that aren't provided by any standard product today because they're unique to your enterprise. And we have a set of tools that will let this platform create that kind of functionality. And we'll talk about that a little as we go through as well. So we like to get some information back when we do this because it helps us not only understand potential customers, but understanding how we want to present in these webinars. So Emily, here's your first question.
Great. Okay, so we are curious to find out what your business challenges are in your organization. Please just select one. So is it improving productivity for mobile workers, or centralizing voice infrastructure, private cloud, supporting disaster recovery, creating business process applications, or integrating with Link? And I'm sorry, there's a little typo at the last one, but that word is integrating. So I'll just wait a couple more seconds and let everyone vote. Okay, and it looks like most people have voted. Okay, and Neil, the results are about 35% is productivity for mobile workers, and then we have about 30% for voice infrastructure. About 5% are challenged with disaster recovery, and then another 35% with Link.
Yeah, all those subjects are something we deal with in almost every conversation with a customer. It's a challenging time to run an enterprise. I'm actually kind of happy that our focus is just this unified communications piece because there's so much going on out there that it's difficult to do these in silos. It's difficult to have one team go say replace my legacy voicemail, another say look at my telephony infrastructure migration, and another say let's focus on business application productivity, because they're also tightly tied together today. But there really has to be some consideration in all of those. And of course, that's what the UC market is about, unified communications. This is an interesting market we've been in since before it was named that even. The concept is fairly simple, though. You have many applications in your enterprise. They all are kind of purpose-built for one set of functions. But it turns out the capabilities of one would be very handy in another. So isn't there a way to leverage the things you have all together? Like we have a great telephone interface. Wouldn't that be good to give a telephone interface maybe to your sales management package? So those kind of connecting together is what UC is all about. Now, it's not an easy thing to look at. These charts get more and more complicated every time somebody comes out with them. But basically, if you look at the key infrastructure providers in the communications market, primarily we're focusing on, although we connect outside the communications market, what you find is there's a concept of use your communications platform to enable all of your functionality, all of your other enterprise applications. Now, what vendors like us provide comes from their position of strength. In other words, somebody like Avaya, who is a phone system company, looks at extending phone system functionality out for unified communications. Someone like Cisco does a little bit of phones, does a little bit of collaboration as well. And everyone sort of builds that package themselves. And we're a little different in that we only have a small piece of this, so we focus specifically on taking our platform and enabling communications for all of the other functions. So we don't really compete so much with these other players as we augment their products. So you can have an Avaya voice infrastructure and put our UC product in to extend it even further. The same with Cisco. You can have Link and use our product along with that. So multiple delivery models come with kind of the fact that we talked about multiple implication types. Not every product is perfect in every market. As an example, our CX product is great in premise, private cloud, and hybrid, but we had to have a completely separate product for public cloud. UC is different when you start putting different applications in different areas. Today we're just going to focus on the CX, which is the premise, private cloud, and hybrid version. We're more than happy to talk to you about a hosted version as well, just not during this call. So but once again, the name Unified Communications is not new, but people are starting to change it now to Unified Communications and Collaboration, which I think muddies the market a little more. If you look at the latest Gartner report, Gartner is one of the industry analysts that tracks this area, has for a long time. They have 37 separate technologies in their UC plus communications survey, 37 different things. And they're all sort of interreacted with others, not completely. There's no way to draw it out exactly, but it's a fairly complex thing to look at. They added 14 new technologies in this year's survey alone. So as a result, we have this category that you really can't define very well beyond that top level. Top level's easy. Unified communications, let's tie our solutions together to give you better connectivity, more productivity by leveraging pieces of different solutions into a common application. But it's made up of a lot of different technologies, made up of a lot of different companies. Interoperability is the key here. One of the things Gartner says is, the all-in-one package, a suite that gives you everything, while it looks attractive up front, has the limitation of almost none of the point solutions are best of breed. So if you look at these suites and you look at one thing like unified messaging or a speech interface, they won't be the best at that. They're kind of an average thing that this vendor tries to do to deliver everything, which makes your job a little harder. You actually have to understand the pieces you want, figure out who the players are, and then make sure they work together. Interoperability is half the battle in figuring out what you can do in your enterprise in terms of extending functionality. Not everybody is standards-driven, and some are only partially standards-driven. And if you're buying a product today, even if you're only replacing your legacy voicemail, that product has a 7 to 10 year life, and you can be sure that in that time frame, you're going to want to extend that out with unified messaging and mobile communications and all these other features. So even if all you're doing is replacing a legacy voicemail, you really have to be diligent and look at that interoperability piece to make sure that product you're selecting will move forward with you. So we're all about interoperability because we're not owned by any of those large people. We like to feel that our market is everywhere. We should be able to walk into any customer and say, regardless of what your environment is, look at all the solutions we have for you. And we start with that, of course, with the telephony market. We started as just a voicemail company 30 years ago. So hooking to phone systems was our our meat and potatoes. It's what we've done. And unlike all our competitors, we still do all of these integrations, all native integrations. We hooked every phone system out there, and no one else can say that. And we do it in unique ways that kind of leverage the fact that we've been at this for 30 years. So regardless of what infrastructure you have, you could be all Avaya, you could be Avaya with some Nortel, you could be NEC, you could have ShoreTel, you could be putting new Cisco systems in. It makes no difference to us. All of the solutions we have work with all of the telephony products out there on the market today. It takes a lot of engineering work to do that, but it just makes it so much easier for us to go out and talk to a customer without saying, here are the 5 things you have to change to take advantage of our solution. There's never any discussion about rip and replace when you look at our solutions. If you look at kind of the latest example of our connectivity, Link is a very popular product right now, both in implementation and in discussion. And for most people, and I think the last numbers that I saw said 97% of Link installations are primarily instant messaging. People are trialing some of the telephony connections. A few people are deploying it, and there's certainly a lot of talk about it. Well, we kind of look at that kind of market and say, well, what can we do? Where do we add some expertise? And so we built what we call the Link Intelligent Gateway. There's lots of ways to enable your Link soft phone to call out onto the network and to receive calls. But they're not very flexible yet. It's kind of new. So what we've done is built this gateway where if you have our CX system, we'll connect to your PBX, and once again, any PBX, any old PBX you have, any new PBX, any 5 kinds of PBXs, makes no difference what's on that side to us. We can connect to everything, and then we'll serve as a gateway to Link. Now, what that does at the very highest level is exactly what any gateway to Link does. You can now make outgoing calls through your Link soft phone, and we'll route them out through the public network through your PBX, or you can receive incoming calls. And we'll do the same thing. We'll route them to your Link client. The intelligent part comes from one of the things our engine offers is a very powerful Find Me, Follow Me feature, which lets you route calls to any of your devices based on rules and overrides. So what I've actually done for Link, I don't use it at my desktop here. I actually have a phone with a headset that I use almost all the time. But when I travel and I check into a hotel, the first thing I do is throw my laptop on the desk, get onto the network, make sure I have some connectivity, and then I pick up my phone and I call into CX and I say, change my availability to Link. Now I sit down and I start to work, and the next call that comes in for me comes in on my Link client. I now can make and receive free calls sitting in the hotel without worrying about, my mobile phone and the expensive hotel bills, etc. So that intelligent routing part is one of the things that we offer. So this is sort of how we approach things. We do the interoperability piece, and then we extend out our functionality to everything that we connect to. Our interoperability certainly doesn't stop in the telephony world. From the email side, we've been doing unified messaging for 20 years, connecting to email systems that aren't even around anymore. We certainly have all the standard connections for unified messaging, like Exchange and Notes and GroupWise. But we also, in light of the kind of hybrid split cloud kind of models we're seeing, we also offer Gmail integration, Office 365 integration, basically in the cloud, in your enterprise. We have full support. We also do things like connect to multiple email systems. So if you have half your people on Exchange and half on a different IMAP system, that's not a challenge for us. You could have multiple Exchange servers in multiple domains, and we can put a single CX system and handle that. Or maybe you're looking at migrating out to Office 365 and you have Exchange today. We can actually hook both Exchange and Office 365 up, and you can migrate your users a few at a time, and we're able to accommodate that with just the click of a button. So the interoperability piece is so much, carries so much content in terms of how your future will look and how much easier it'll be and how much more open the market will be for you to choose if you make sure the products you look at have that kind of interoperability today. So this is all about hyper-available employees, and this is kind of an extension to mobility. This is talking about, we need in today's financial world to have our employees be more productive, more responsive to our customers. All of that is more important than it's ever been before. So everyone's really looking at what can I get the technology to do to help me. We did a survey. Well, we didn't do a survey. Information Week did a survey a little while ago, and they went out to thousands of mobile workers. And by mobile workers, these were people that work both at the office and travel, kind of the hybrid, typical mobile worker. And they said, when we start talking in your enterprise about deploying these applications listed on the left, where is it important for that information to be delivered? What device do you want to make sure has access to those solutions that are listed on the left? So, no surprise, they showed up in a couple of places, but primarily mobile. The mobile device, and while that shows a picture of a mobile telephone, that should be thought of as a more generic mobile device, including my iPad, my iPhone, my Android tablet, my Windows mobile phone, an internet kiosk, mobile in that broad sense of the word. That's what's important today. Because we all feel pretty comfortable at our desktop. We all have the tools that let us work. Our problem comes when we leave our desktop and we don't have those tools. The way we work doesn't function, and we become less productive, less responsive as well. So this is kind of the story today. Mobility is all powerful. It got very much confused by the whole bring your own device movement, where now we not only have to deliver it to a mobile device, we pretty much have to deliver it to all mobile devices. And that's where we spend a lot of our time, both in engineering and product management, figuring out how we can do that. Because the mobile people are the ones where you can get the most bang for your buck in terms of making them more effective by using unified communication solutions. We have lots and lots of mobile applications. I guess our first mobile application was voicemail, where you could call in from home and get your messages, and then message waiting and pager notification, and we just kind of kept driving functionality in, and now we have a list here. We're not going to go through all these. We don't really have the time to do that, but suffice it to say, we've been adding features for mobile workers to this product for 30 years. No one has the feature set that we have. It's just a matter of, we were lucky. We started in the market when you could start with open applications, open servers, industry standard hardware, and we've leveraged that over the years. So we're going to look at a couple of these, though, because they're kind of interesting and unique, and I think they'll give you a feeling for what you can do to make your employees more productive when they're mobile. As we said, from our point of view, mobile devices aren't just mobile phones. We certainly have all the desktop extensions that we've always had, so unified messaging from your desk and your email client, that's been in the product for 20 years. We've also extended that out, though, because sometimes you're sitting in a computer and you can't use those clients, and this may be a web connection for you from your house, from a hotel, from Starbucks somewhere. We've extended out almost everything we do to web clients, and we have an application that lets you manage your calls, manage your messages, all of that through an industry standard web piece. And all of our web applications run on your web servers. We don't insist that you put a new web server in your environment. We are quite happy deploying them on your servers, whether they're IIS or Apache or anything that runs PHP. On the other side there, the voice user interface, we've always had a DTMF user interface, and that's great sometimes, but the amount of time we all spend in our cars today and not being very productive, or at least not being safely productive, is very high. So what we've done for that is added a great speech recognition interface into the product. And this speech recognition interface lets you access your messages, listen to your calendar, create new appointments, make outgoing calls to your contacts. I actually log into this when I'm driving, and I stay logged in almost the whole trip, because while I'm in there processing my messages, I can also receive incoming calls. I can prioritize very much like I do at my desktop. My day usually starts with me climbing in my car, dialing into the system. It says, "Hello, Neil, what would you like to do?" And I say, "What are my appointments for today?" And I read my calendar to make sure I'm driving in the right direction. And then I say, "Get new messages." And then maybe right in the middle of one of my messages that's important, I say, "Call back," and it'll call the sender of that message. And I can have a conversation, and when they hang up, I'm right back in my messages. So productivity in a hands-free, eyes-free environment, the speech interface is fantastic. But that's not every environment. Probably the most typical environment, particularly if you're trying to look at where our unproductive time is sitting somewhere waiting. Sitting outside a customer's office waiting for your meeting, sitting in a Starbucks waiting to go somewhere, sitting in the airport, sitting at home sometimes, and our mobile device has become our prime tool in that frame. And for that, first we did some web applications, and they were okay, but we really had to get behind the whole concept of building unique applications by device, using the device interfaces so it looked like all the applications you had on your device. So we now have native applications for the Android product line and the iOS product line, focused primarily on phones, but they also work on tablets. We still have some web applications for people that have other devices, but the primary thrust has been for the iPhone and the Android phones. Which brings up the question, what do you use? Emily?
We actually do not have that poll loaded up.
Ah. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll have people, if they have a strong feeling about what they use or what they don't use, they can type something into the question board, and we'll take a look at it towards the end.
Perfect.
But it is interesting that if I go back 5 years, and maybe it's a little longer than that, but 5 years, I started asking people years ago, so what about mobile devices? What do you support? And let's say 6 years ago, it was, we support this. And it might be BlackBerry with a BlackBerry Enterprise server. Or it might be everybody uses their own mobile phone, we have no data connectivity. When I ask that question now, and I say, what do we support? The people in the IT department throw up their hands and go, what don't we support? The bring your own device movement has really opened up the enterprise. Now it isn't about what will I support, it's about how do I do it securely? How can I implement support for these devices and still feel comfortable that I'm the guardian of the network? So that's the kind of discussions we have more often. So knowing that, we built our mobile clients basically by implementing them in such a way they run on the device like any native client. They use the native toolkits for programming, and the apps are the ones you'd expect. So first of all, there's a messaging app. Since we started as a voice messaging company, you certainly can get your voicemail messages and play them. What we do is interesting, though. We don't download the messages. Most of our competition downloads some subset of the messages to the phone, and then if you need more, you have to wait while they download. And that's not really very productive. And more than that, it leaves company data on that phone. What we do is we download pointers to the messages, and when you click on the message, we stream it. With even a standard 3G connection, there's no delays. It works fine, and it's more secure that way. It's HTTPS connections, so pretty much anyone that's looked at our applications is comfortable with them being secure. So you can do messages, you can place and receive incoming calls, you can manage, there's a lot of things you can do here. We're going to look at a couple of them that are a little bit different, just to give you an idea of how this application changes your productivity. And the first one we'll look at is probably the most interesting one, I think. We've had applications for a long time, like the speech application I talked about. I can take a new call. If I'm logged into my system and you call and ask for me, I will hear, you have a call from John Tyler. Please say accept call, reject call, or acknowledge. If I say acknowledge, it'll record a brief message and play it back to the caller, but I can move on. That's the kind of, I want to set a callback expectation, but I'm getting ready to walk into a meeting functionality. And we've had that for years. But it doesn't do any good for one particular group of people, and that's people sitting in meetings. Sitting in a meeting with your mobile phone for years, you've been performing, the triage of important email, making sure your business isn't getting out of hand. And on the off chance that something really drastic comes up, you know about it, and you can make that decision to step out and handle it or not. But calls, you pretty much had to turn off the phone. You couldn't take calls. What we now offer is visual call screening on the data channel on those devices. You put our native client in. When somebody calls for you, you get a pop-up. And if it's an internal person or someone in your contacts, you'll get the name and the phone number. You probably have a pretty good idea what it's about. And then you have those same options. You can take the call. If you hit accept, you step out of the room, your phone is ringing, and you answer that call. If you say reject, they go to voicemail. But you also can do the acknowledge feature. So you can hit acknowledge and briefly pick your phone up and say, yes, John, I'll be out to talk to you in 10 minutes. Or you can transfer it to another user. Or if you're sitting in a meeting right across from your office, you can hit transfer to device, and by the time you walk into your office, it's ringing on your phone. So the ability to carefully monitor incoming calls, just like you are email, in a meeting, comes from this client. And it's unique. No one else offers this. Likewise, you can do outbound calls. Now, certainly from your mobile device, you can pick up your phone and call your customer. I mean, we've been doing that for years. We've figured out, though, what happens is they write that number down, and from now on, all my calls from that customer come in on my mobile number, which gives me some control problems and maybe some cost problems, particularly if I'm sharing it. If that's my personal phone, but I'm also using it for work. Now we have these disputes over my phone bill and, which calls are business calls. If you have our native client, you can make all the outgoing calls through our system. What you do is maybe you see a message from someone, or in your call log, you see that someone called. You hit call that person. Data packet goes through the data channel, tells CX you want to call it, does all the checking to make sure you're allowed to call that number. And then your phone rings, and when you pick it up, you can hear the outside call ringing. And we've bridged that call through CX. So there's still a call on the mobile phone, but the outgoing call to your customer shows the CX number, not your number, which encourages them to call back in on that number, which means you then have the ability to control that with the call routing rules that we have. So it's a great loop in terms of separating. And now you also have a report on our system identifying all your business calls separate from the personal calls you might have made on your mobile. So mobile number protection and the splitting of business and personal, this client accomplishes that. It's a great little client. It does mailbox settings, so I can change my availability settings. I can re-record my greetings. I can do lots of things. It's turning out to be very, very popular. The hands-free piece I talked about a little from the car. It gives me the ability to read my messages. I can listen to a voicemail from an employee and forward that to somebody in my contacts, all using simple speech commands. And the speech interface is a very powerful tool for anyone that spends any amount of time in a car. I don't think people use it very much except in a car. I certainly don't sit at my desk and try and speak commands into my telephone because the graphic tools are really much better. But in a car, I find it indispensable if I'm going to be in a car for any length of time. And a lot of this comes from the centralization drive. Now, some of you might be single-site entities and you haven't faced this, but for most people, even if it's just 3 offices in town, 3 locations in town, at some point in time, the concept of centralizing your data infrastructure was put into play, and you found that you saved money. That costs went down, maintenance costs went down, training costs went down, control went up. So that centralization drive became stronger and stronger, and now you're looking at centralizing your telephony infrastructure as well. You might not be ready to fully centralize, to take out the old phone systems and put in new, but there's still some things you can do. And in this centralization market, our architecture comes into play. We have a very unique architecture. We scale up to 500 ports. We support multiple integrations, so I can have a single CX system connect to up to 10 different types of phone systems. We support multiple time zones and different dialing plans. And we have components, survivable components, that go out on the remote sites. So just this as an example, as a simple customer picture, I can put the main body of the system in the main location of the data center, and then I can put components out in branch office 1, 2, and 3. And now what I have with those components out there is if I lose my network connection, basically the survivable components will keep that location working. It'll answer calls, run all the call processing applications, take the messages, etc. So when I start consolidating, I not only have a very cost-effective way to do it, but I have a way that gives me a very high level of availability. We even support full geographic redundancy. If I had a backup data center, I can set up so if I lose my main site, the backup data center kicks in and keeps everything running. So when you look at consolidation, it's something you probably should talk to us about because we do it better than anyone else. And that all leads to kind of the last piece, which is we do a really good job. We ask you these questions in the webinar. We talk to our customers after they buy our product. We have a user group. We get as much feedback as we can because we need to understand what it is we can put into our product that helps people and obviously encourages them to buy the product. But every now and then we come across things that they're not generic. They're not something that everybody wants. And it really doesn't make sense for us to put it in the product and maintain it because not enough people will use it. That doesn't mean it's not valuable. It means we need to find a different way to create that solution, and we do that. If you look at very basic apps, we talk about level 1, things that everybody uses, well, then we will put that into the product. And that includes unified messaging and the mobility pieces we talked about. Those are all very broad applications. They appeal to everyone, and it makes sense for us to develop them. At a higher level, people ask us for things that are a little unique, and we don't want to put them in the product. It doesn't make financial sense. But what we do support is building those applications custom. We have a set of custom programming tools that lets us build custom applications that leverages the strength of the product. So if you think about the things the product does, it makes calls, receives calls, takes messages, accesses messages. All that functionality is exposed in a set of toolkits. And we are glad to talk with customer about increasing the efficiency of their business process with our platform on a custom level. And that can mean that we actually write a custom application for you, or it can mean you simply purchase a toolkit and you use your own resources to write those applications. We support both business models. To help people understand this concept, we wrote a custom app and showed it around, and it was so popular it became part of the product. So we have something called Notify Express. Notify Express is an outgoing call campaign management application. It uses our UC Connect, our custom engine, but it's written and packaged and available for purchase. The easiest way, I think, for us to explain this is the outgoing call notification that happens in most doctors' offices. Most hospitals and doctors' offices, starting about 2 o'clock, there's a couple of people on the phone calling out saying, "Hi, listen, this is the hospital. We're just verifying, you have a doctor's appointment with so-and-so tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Are you going to be there? Okay, thanks." We've seen industry studies that say 40% reduction in no-shows from making those calls. So it's something I think everybody probably does. It's an easy thing to take the capabilities of the CX product, making outgoing calls, delivering information, and create an app like this. With this app, the administrator, instead of having to have a bunch of people calling, creates a text file with the relevant information and schedules a 2 o'clock call campaign, and the ports on CX come off hook. They make the calls, and they basically deliver that same information, including the ability to let them transfer to somebody to reschedule, to take a message for somebody. It's very flexible, even though it is a canned application. So that's just an example of the kind of application you can write with our toolkits. And it goes far beyond that into the kind of the more typical information access, the IVR market, as it used to be called. That's a standard function with our toolkit. You buy our toolkit, and you can write the kind of applications you see here. In fact, all of these are applications that we have out at various customers. So this is kind of the last level of discussion we have with people. You have unique problems. We can build unique solutions. They're unique enough they won't ever become a basic part of anyone's product, but they might be important enough for you to take a look at and to want to deploy. And now we'd like some questions.
Okay, so we have a few questions. First of all, there was about 3 different people that were asking if the PowerPoint was going to be available. And we will have that available for download. We will be sending you an email with the link to download the slide. So that will be available for everyone after the webinar. First question, Neil, is how do you support communications-enabled business process capabilities?
So the communications-enabled business process category name is what we call business process. So communication-enabled business process is the piece we talked about last, which is our ability with custom development toolkits to either write you custom applications, and let's say, as a different example, you have a portal for your employees, and they spend all their time there, your office employees. And while they can go over to our website and get their messages, and they can go over to their phone and make calls, what you really want from the portal is to integrate all that. Using our toolkit, you can take the voice message piece and put it into your portal. You can build click-to-call functionality. So from that portal, they can start leveraging what the CX product does. So those are typical CEBP that you'd see people do, and we definitely can do that with our development kits.
Great. Okay. And the next question is, does AVST have a specialized application for hospitality?
Not with the CX product we're talking about. We have another product line, the Repartee product line, that has a full set of not only features but PMS interfaces. So you definitely could talk about it. It's not available on the CX, but it is available on the Repartee product.
Okay, and last question. We are a current customer. Can you tell me more about Web Phone Manager capabilities?
Sure. Probably you already have Web Phone Manager, not installed necessarily, but if you leave off the access to messages piece, all the rest of it is a free function. So when we shipped the system to your vendor, on the DVD was the Web Phone Manager application. So unless you're 25 software levels behind, which I don't think anyone is, you basically can engage your vendor to come out and install that for free. If you want to also access messages from that, then you need unified messaging licenses, which you may or may not have, but that's something else that your vendor can put in place for you. So we found, particularly in the early days, telephony vendors were not always all that interested in working with the data departments to get that kind of application deployed. So it often didn't get deployed in early systems. But you do have the right to it, and all you need to do is get your vendor to come out and put it in.
Great. Okay, that looks like that's all the questions we have now. We'd like to thank everyone again for joining the webinar. And Neil, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Just, once again, it's a lot easier for us to set aside our time and do this as something we focus on than it is for you to pull time out for your day. Hopefully you find these things worth it, and hopefully you'll let us know either yes or no. If there's things we don't cover, let us know. We'll put something together for you. If you think they're too deep, you think they don't go deep enough, that feedback definitely influences what it is we present. So I'd like to just thank everybody.
Thank you, everyone. We hope to see you again on a future webinar, and have a great day.